Yeah, so it's pretty ugly. I'm just dealing with the consequences of my actions and refusal to do math.
Hello fairies! Welcome back to my channel. My name is Rachel, aka Fairy Ann, and I make Lolita fashion content and sewing tutorials. This is part 3 of my wedding dress sewing diaries. Last video I was struggling with illness. Here we are. I'm feeling alive again. I'm feeling full of energy and I am ready to get this thing done. The game plan for today is to continue working on the skirt. I started working on the skirt in the first video, and then the second video I mainly focused on the bodice. I have a much more solid idea of what I'm doing now, and yes, I'm just ready to go. So the next layer will be this pinkish purpley color layer, and I'm just gonna do the exact same thing as I did with the first. So I'm hoping to get that done today, if not mostly done, and then I'll work on the top portion of the skirt, which I'm a bit more nervous about because it's more complicated, but it'll happen. Yes. All right, enough talking. Let's get to work.
It felt like most of my time spent making this dress was just moving the fabric around trying to get it straight. I basically repeated all the steps when I cut out the first layer so that they would be as same as possible. I even used a panel from the first layer as a guide just to make extra sure they were the same. Again, my rotary cutter was my best friend. Instead of measuring out each panel, I traced the first one just to make things go faster. Although I spent so long moving the fabric around to be perfectly aligned, I'm not sure this really saved any time in the end. Now I've got my 4 panels, it's time to sew them all together. And that means more French seams. The more I did French seams, the more enjoyable I found them. They became quite therapeutic. They forced me to clear my mind and intently focus on the task right in front of me. Plus, they are so satisfying. That about wraps it up for today. My sewing mannequin was super helpful for working on the skirt length. First, I made sure it was at my height. As I went to put the first layer on for fitting, I realized I forgot to add a slit so it would fit over the shoulders. That's an easy fix. I marked how long I thought the slit should be, sewed a zigzag stitch around it to keep the fabric from fraying, then I cut down the middle. I feel like I need to name my mannequin. She's been so helpful, but I just haven't gotten around to naming her yet. If you have any name suggestions, put them down below in the comments. I noticed the skirt length looked irregular, so I measured at different parts from the bottom to where it met the bodice. I pulled the top of the skirt up where it was too long to try to make it more even. You can see it was off quite a bit.
So the way that I cut the skirt, the waist specifically, I did not do a good job. As you can see, it's very cattywampus. I measured from the bottom of the skirt up to make sure that it all lands at the same length. On the sides where the seams are, it's a lot I need to chop off. That's okay though. I decided I want the back of the skirt to flare out a bit like a train. Not too much, just a bit, which means I need to add extra fabric here to make it longer. So now I will be fixing all of this, and when I get to the pink layer of the skirt, I'll just repeat the whole process.
The amount of fabric I had to trim off was so dramatic, it was a little scary. Hope I'm not making the problem even worse. Even though the waist still looks irregular, the plan is that when I sew it onto the bodice, the length will be evened out at the bottom. Here, I'm adding extra fabric to the back of the skirt in an attempt to make it longer. This was a bad idea from the beginning, and I redid the entire back portion of the skirt later. But I wanted to include this to show that it's okay to make mistakes because I learned from it and no project is without some level of learning. I just really didn't want to admit to myself that I messed up, and I was desperately avoiding having to get more fabric. I guess the major takeaway from this is piecing together sheer fabric like this does not work at all, ever. Don't do it. Because I trimmed so much from the top of the skirt, I had to gather it so that it would fit my waist again. I had enough mistake mending for one day.
So I realized that my patchworking deal here doesn't look very good. So the reason I had to fuss around a lot with the waist part of the skirt is because I have already hemmed it and finished it very nicely, and I do not want to do that again. However, I'm banking on the fact that this is the bottom layer and there will be a lot of fabric layered on top of it, and I'm hoping it'll be enough to cover or camouflage. With that being said, I'm really glad I decided to make the back portion of the skirt a bit longer. I think that will give a really beautiful effect when I'm walking. Yeah, so it's pretty ugly, but it'll be hidden mostly. I'm just dealing with the consequences of my actions and refusal to do math. So when I move on to the pink layer here in a sec, I'm hoping to, instead of trimming the waist part so much, I'm also going to adjust the bottom of it before I hem it, and I think that'll be a lot easier and give me much better results. More layers I do, like the higher up they are, the more important they are to look good. So I'm glad that I'm doing the bottom one first to get all of my mistakes out of the way. So yeah, that is the plan, and I'm going to now move on to the second layer.
Because I made the second layer exactly how I made the first one, it had all the same problems. I needed to add another slit like I did for the first layer, but I opted to do it down a seam line rather than the middle of a panel. Oh my gosh, guys, look how pretty the colors are, all layered like that. Oh, it looks like cotton candy. Oh my gosh. I'm so excited. It's so pretty. To make the skirt length even all the way around, I marked about an inch below where the first layer ended. Except for the back of the skirt, which I kept longer for the train.
Gosh, doing it this way from the hem is so much easier than doing it from the waist. At least the hard part is done.
I had to trim off a lot of extra fabric. I was so nervous doing this. Now that the skirt is even at the bottom, it's time to move on to hemming it with the crinoline tape.
Alright guys, my phone battery is about to die, so I'm gonna say bye here, and I'm going to then finish hemming this skirt layer, and that'll be it for today. I'll see you guys next time.
Thank you so much for watching to the end of this video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more content like this. This is part 3 in a series about my wedding dress, so if you haven't already, check out the first 2 videos here. And stay tuned for installment 4. See you guys next time!